At Kaylee Makes today, I'm going to talk all about how I made this cosplay glowing sword. It's going to be pretty in-depth. So to begin, I made a scale drawing to get the aspect ratio right and feel like I had a good grasp on the dimensions. The second step I worked on was cutting the blade out of plexiglass. The goal here was to put the LEDs on the edge of the plexiglass so that they would diffuse. I cut out a circular portion at the bottom of the plexiglass with a circle cut saw that's meant for doorknobs. It worked really well. Here you can see I've got a little bit of wiring with my LEDs on edge. The sword is also made to break down in the middle so I can pack it in a suitcase. I attached the PVC to the plexiglass with some zip ties with holes through the plexiglass. Here I am playing around. It's pretty fun and sturdy at this point. We're rocking and rolling until we aren't. Here I am struggling a little bit with my circuit, figuring out how I want to inlay this into my prop. And once I got that figured out, I could move on a little bit. Here you can see a good picture of these zip ties and how they're holding everything together. And we have illumination on the prop as well. At this point, I realized I wanted more light, and so I added LEDs here at the tip of the blade so that more color would diffuse through the plexiglass. And it looks pretty good. This is a good example of how the LEDs are on edge with the plexiglass to get that diffused look. You can also see that the edge of the plexiglass has been sanded and it is diffused there. And I protected the pebbled texture of the plexiglass with some painter's tape, and I used a Dremel tool to sand that down. Now you can see I am layering EVA foam onto my plexiglass and PVC to define the shape of the sword. I'm hiding these connections underneath, and then I will add some smoother pieces of foam over the top. So building it up in layers, and then now you can see this smooth piece on the other side. So underneath we have the connections with the zip ties as well as the PVC underneath. Next up is resin crystals. I used a two-part resin with alcohol inks to make colored crystals with the silicone molds you see here. I also used mica powders and some metal flakes to get some awesome looks. To get the two-toned effect, I poured multiple colors into the same mold to get these beautiful faded crystals. Now I'm laying out and planning where my LEDs will go back underneath these crystals here. And you can see I have cut them off to be flush so that I can glue them on with hot glue. And just a reminder that it is an explosion and a great big mess, but you know, that's what happens sometimes when you craft. Also, to transition from the hot glue, I used these little glass beads in the hot glue to make it look as if the crystals were growing out, and then I added some air-dry foam clay around that. I used air-dry foam clay to smooth out any bumps or ridges left by the first round of EVA foam work, and here you can see the final setup before the paint job. The crystals are all glued on top of the LEDs at this point. Moving on to the hilt, I've got the same setup. Crystals glued on with hot glue with the foam clay and the beads around here, and we're gonna do a test. Oh, we have light. This looks just gorgeous. I especially can appreciate the two-tone color and different rainbow effects you get because of the crystals are colored blue and purple and green. I heat sealed all the EVA foam with my heat gun, and I primed everything with EVA primer as well, and use EVA foam paint. While I was doing the paint job, I realized that I wanted to add some accents and embellishments to the sides of the sword, and so I made a calligraphy doodle that's kind of swirling, and I turned this into a cut file and used my silhouette machine to create a paper embossed piece. I put this on the side of the sword with more paint and continued on here. You can see how that looks incredible. I wanted it to have kind of a living and flowing feel. And now we are on to the top coat of clear sealant to protect the paint a little bit. Now I did have to fix a few things. Here I am repairing the middle connector between the two pieces of the sword. And overall, this prop has been very reliable and stable. As you can see here, I am enjoying this beautiful place called Capitol Reef National Park, where I had the privilege of doing a photo shoot earlier this year. And the sword can take some good momentum. I'm gonna swing it around here for you. Let's take a look at the final result. Stunning. This is controlled by an Arduino chip, and I am using Adafruit NeoPixels for the LEDs. Thank you so much for watching.